Hey everybody, it's the weekend edition of Proline. We are going to get into some great games, some terrific matchups this weekend in college basketball. We got three of the best games we're going to break down and try and give you winners on. Introduce the guys. You got Big Al McMorty, Jim Feist, Scott Spreitzer. My name is Dave Koken. We are glad to have you with us. And before we get going to the games, let's update everybody as to what we've got going special on our services this weekend. And Jim, let's start with you because you got your big one. You come up with your college game of the year. It goes this weekend.
Well, Dave, rocking and rolling here in college basketball, and just last night, 4-1 in the games, won the big game again. It's the best time of year, and I'm ready to strike with a game that can only be called my 2011 college game of the year. This monster game is available right now on ProLineTV.com for $50, but it's yours for just $25 if you make the call to 1-866-841-1655. This is the biggest game of the season, and I'm so confident it's going to get the money that I'm guaranteeing it against the rest of the college season. That's right. Absolutely free if the game doesn't win. Win and play this big game with me. I'm going to make a ton of money on this game, and I know you will as well. So make the call to 1-866-841-1655 for my 2011 college basketball game of the year. This one is locked and loaded, ready to win, money in your pocket and money in mine. And don't forget, for free winners each and every day via text, just text WINNER to 313131, and we'll send you free plays each and every day right to your cell phone.
We'll keep it going with Al McMorty. And Al's it's been extraordinary how well he's done with these big games. NBA blowout of the year on tap, and also a big game in the colleges, Al.
Yeah, Dave, it's a really deep card on Saturday, both in pro and college basketball. And I've got two extremely strong plays. As you mentioned, my NBA blowout of the year, and I've got a conference game of the year in college basketball. Both plays are extremely strong, and both plays are absolutely free. And you can call toll free right now, 866-896-1628. That's 866-896-1628. We started off in daytime action with a conference game of the year, and then we ended up all at night with our NBA blowout of the year. Go 2-0 today, or I should say Saturday. Absolutely free. 866-896-1628. Make the call right now.
All right, we head over to Scott Spreitzer. Scott, these 3-packs of yours have been dynamite to begin with. You got that going this weekend, and two monster plays to go with that, conference games of the year.
Yeah, it's been real strong, Dave, with these featured packages that we've had. In fact, last week on Friday, we talked about our signature annihilators, $500 per play online, and we offered it up for $49. First thing we do last Saturday is win by 20 points with a single-digit play on Weber State. Had a 2-1 card with those over the next 5 days. And those 3-packs that you just talked about, we did it again on Thursday night. We swept our 3-pack, which included one NBA play, 2 college basketball plays. We're now 12-2-1 winning packages with our last 15 3-packs. And how do you push? Well, we had a win and a loss, and we had a game that was postponed. But the other 14, 12 winning 3-packs, only 2 losing 3-packs. And now we're going to just do it again on Saturday. We've got 3 big plays, all from college basketball on Saturday's slate. 2 of those plays happen to be games of the year. So those plays are going to be available for just $15. And all the folks have to do is call 1-866-896-1627. That's 866-896-1627. A big winning 3-pack from Smash Mouth Sports.
All right, my offer this weekend is for just one game. This is a huge play. I'll be selling this game online for $500. So it's only going to get bought online by really big players. Talking guys who are throwing 5 dimes on the game, somewhere in that range. What I've decided to do, and I don't do this very often, because believe me, I'd rather get $500 for a game. It pays better, all right? I'm going to make this game available for $25. Now you can buy it online if you want. Believe me, I appreciate it if you do. But you can take advantage of this offer and get the game for $25, along with a guarantee. This is how confident I am in the game. I wouldn't put this guarantee out if I didn't think the game was an easy winner. You get the rest of the regular season, plus all the college conference tournaments as well. free service through, I believe it's March 16th. So that's more than a month of service. That's the guarantee in this game, and the cost is $25. High-level game, top-level game is what it is. It fits what I look for more than anything else at this time of year in college basketball, and it fits the strongest part of that equation. The game's going to win. 1-866-841-1665 is the number to call. Again, it's a $500 game online, and if you go to the website right now, you can see it right on there. You get the game for $25 along with that great guarantee. 1-866-841-1665. All right, here we go. Let's get to the games. We'll start off with Temple at Dayton, a good A-10 rivalry. Al, I guess it's kind of the same old story with Dayton. They're 13-3, and then they hit a little rough stretch, and they're going backwards. They've not been playing real good basketball. This has been a constant for this team in the second half of the regular season over the past few years in the A-10. They need to win this game. This is a big game for them. Temple's coming in, and Temple's not always on their A game. When they are, they're a pretty good basketball team. What do you think?
Well, just because you need to win a game, Dave, doesn't mean you're going to. The road team is 10-7 against the spread in this series. Now, earlier this week, I actually went against Temple. I had a big play on Fordham. The Owls got off to a 37-12 lead in the ball game, and then they just collapsed. And at one point, they were only up by 3 points over Fordham, and Fordham had lost 35 straight Atlantic 10 games going into that game against Temple. So I think Temple pretty much just put it in the win column early on and then fell asleep. But the last thing I really want to do is go against Temple with this short number on Saturday, and especially not with a team that's coming off a 14-point loss at Rhode Island this past Wednesday. So there's no way I'm going to go against Temple here. And also, Dayton is a terrible 11-23 against the spread at home off a loss when installed as an underdog of 11 or less points. Conversely, Temple a terrific 37-18 against the spread when favored on the road off a win versus an opponent off a straight-up loss. So I'm going to lay the short number with the Owls, Dave.
Scott, when you look at the stats on Dayton, kind of the one thing that stands out, 40.3%. There's teams that shoot that better than that from three-point range. That's Dayton's overall field goal percentage. We have a team out here that struggles to make shots sometimes, and you can see how ugly the game can get. And that's what's been happening to Dayton. They're averaging 40% from the field for the season, and I think that ties into their struggles right now.
Well, yeah, they were hoping to use last year's NIT championship as a springboard into something better this year, and they were thinking before the season Sweet 16 aspirations, but that's gone. They're likely going to be back in the NIT this year. They've lost 5 of the last 9 games straight up. And Brian Gregory's a good defensive basketball coach more often than not, but, they've been struggling as of late. I mean, it's been a regular occurrence for them to give up 70 or more points in the last 7 or 8 games. In fact, they've allowed 80 points or more a few times in that run. They do well at home, 13-2 straight up, but I don't like the way they looked at all the last time out. And the one caveat here for Temple is that Lavoy Allen may not play in this game. Yeah. And, we'll get his status as the day moves on, but he was injured in the game against Fordham. And he's a monster on the glass. Temple doesn't have a lot of great rebounders, but Allen is one of those. And, he's averaging about 7 boards per game. I was looking at the box score from the other night. He himself had 10 offensive rebounds against the Rams, talking about Lavoy Allen. You see teams that normally don't get 10 offensive rebounds. They had 24 offensive boards in that game, and of course Lavoy Allen plays such a big part. So, before I can paint myself into a corner, I want to agree with Al here and say that I'm going to back the Temple Owls. But if they were going to put him, by the way, in a soft cast on Wednesday night and see how he reacted. If he is unable to go in this basketball game, it does change the dynamics a little bit. Still think Temple comes out on top. Don't like the way Dayton's playing defensively right now. So I'll go with Temple for the sake of the show. If Lavoy Allen can go, if he's 85-90% in this game, then I might even have a little bit of action out of my wallet on the Temple Owls. But for now, I'll just say a lean for the show's sake because of the injury to Allen.
Well, Jim, Lavoy Allen's kind of one of those throwback guys. Philly basketball as well as anybody because that's where you're from. And he's a tough dude. The last time these teams met, which was last season, they haven't met this year, Lavoy Allen had 17 rebounds in that game against Dayton. He absolutely killed him on the glass. So if he can't go, it is a big loss for the Owls. But he's an old school Philly player. Just, he's not pretty to watch, but I'll tell you what, he's a real grinder, and he's very important to that Temple team.
Reminds me of Jungle Jim Luskatoff. Wow. You probably don't remember him, but this guy's a horse, and without him, it's a big loss for Temple. I mean, Temple's got a great record against the Atlantic 10. They're 44-20 and 2 ATS against the Atlantic 10. That's against the spread, guys, and that's over 2-1. I mean, they've dominated Atlantic 10 teams, and I think they win this game pretty easily if he plays. If he doesn't play, it's going to come down to what they make the number. Obviously, they should be favored. How much is going to make a difference, but Dayton's going to be tough. It's a big adjustment if he doesn't play.
Yeah, it sure is. From the Dayton standpoint, it's all about Chris Wright. He's a terrific basketball player. The problem is that they haven't surrounded him with a whole lot. And, I wonder if Brian Gregory, I wouldn't guess Brian Gregory's in the hot seat because they won the NIT last year, but I think this program's underachieved, to tell you the truth. That said, if LaVoy Allen isn't playing, and this is something where, we're taping this on Friday, I will definitely be checking the injury report tomorrow. The first indication I've got is that he may not be able to go. I might give Dayton a lean here. I don't think I'm going to play him, though. I just don't have any faith in them, and I think Dunphy can flat-out coach Brian Gregory. So from that standpoint, I like Temple. But I just call it a gut feeling. I think Dayton might show up for a game here. Let's look at the matchup. This is the one everybody's been waiting for. Let me point this out to you, Dave. What's that, Jim? If LaVoy Allen doesn't play, Dayton already ranks 4th in the Atlantic 10 in rebounding. Yeah.
So, I mean, if this guy isn't in the lineup, this is a pretty good team rebounding the ball. And without Allen, that's going to make a major difference. So, if he's not playing, maybe you're right. Maybe Dayton is the right side.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you got to check status, and if you can't find out the status, you know what the best move is? Leave the game alone. It's Saturday. There's a whole bunch of other games out there to play. The game that everybody wants to talk about is Ohio State and Wisconsin, and I'll get the ball rolling on this one. That's Ohio State better not foul the Badgers a lot in this game. If this is a physical game and the referees are blowing the whistle, that's trouble for Ohio State, because this Wisconsin team is absolutely automatic from the foul line. On the season, they're shooting 83%. But since Big Ten play started, they're shooting like 87% from the foul line. That's automatic. Contrast that with Ohio State. Over their last 5 games, Buckeyes only 65% from the line. That could be an absolutely critical component in this basketball game. John Lure, awesome for Wisconsin the other night against Iowa. They were absolutely dead flat in that game, and Lure saved the day for him. He had a spectacular game. I like their point guard a lot. Jordan Taylor's a really underrated guy. He's putting up great numbers. Almost 18 points a game, 4.5 rebounds a game, about 5 assists a game. Really underrated guy. He's one of the best point guards in the country. But beyond that, Ohio State's got the better squad. Sullinger, an absolutely extraordinary freshman, might be the best player in the country. I think he's the number 1 draft choice if he comes out. Buford, Lighty, Diebler, who's just an absolute marksman from the outside. Loaded basketball team. Great game. But, the pressure here is on Ohio State, and I think they're the better team. But I have a feeling, Scott, I think Wisconsin is going to pull the mild upset here. It's only a mild upset because they're a very good team themselves. I'm going to lean to the Badgers to win a close game. I think it lives up to the hype, though. I think it's going to be one of the best games on the board on Saturday, and one I don't want to miss.
Really interested in seeing those first 10 minutes of the game to see if how the officials are blowing their whistles or not, because Ohio State's been a team that stays out of foul trouble all season long. They don't put guys at the free throw line. But the big dynamic that you mentioned is Lauer, the kid, John Lauer, the big 6'10" kid who can take it outside. He's a great perimeter shooter. And this is going to be a different situation now for Sullinger, because he's going to probably be the guy that has to guard him, defend him. This pulls him out from the basket, out from around the paint. That's where he's used to playing on the defensive end. Whole different situation in this game on the defensive end for the Ohio State Buckeyes than what they've been used to. Now, last weekend, it looked like a good spot going into the weekend for Minnesota, but I went with Ohio State. It was a pretty big play for me on Sunday. They ended up winning that game 82-69, and basically were in control of that contest for the entire second half, always leading around by around a 10-point margin in the contest. They wrapped it up. They got the spread cover at Williams Arena, but a different situation. And you mentioned, Wisconsin shoots so well from the free throw line, so Ohio State has to continue to stay out of foul trouble. They went into last week's game against Minnesota. They ranked in the mid-80s in field goal percentage allowed, in the mid-80s in three-point defense, talking about the Buckeyes. So although they're undefeated and although they're the number one team in the nation, and unless they have some kind of weird collapse, they're going to be a number one seed come March Madness, they're not a great defensive basketball team if you consider just the raw statistics. They're good. Now, what's weird about this basketball team, I recently wrote an article about them, about how they escaped on the road at Illinois. They escaped on the road against Northwestern. They could have lost in Columbus to Minnesota and Penn State. But the bottom line is they find ways to win, and there is, to steal an old term, they're as cool as a cucumber, right up and down the bench from the coach and the players concerned. They never look like they're flustered. Question that non-conference schedule. Only one team on their non-conference schedule currently ranks in the top 25, and that's the Florida Gators, who just got in again in the last couple of weeks. And we're still not sure if the Big Ten is, if everybody's playing at a decent level, or if it's just down a notch. I happen to think it's down a notch. So when I look at the Ohio State Buckeyes, I may have said this before on this show in the last couple of weeks, sometimes I think this is a team that can win it all, but sometimes I think it's a team that could almost just as easily, with the wrong matchup, lose in the second round or even the Sweet 16. I know it sounds strange, but that's the way this team has played all year. They've been really close to a lot of different opponents that they played as far as the victory margin is concerned. I'm going to lean towards Wisconsin. It's not a big play for me here, but I think that dynamic of Luer moving outside, shooting from the perimeter at 6'10", is going to change Ohio State's defensive situation enough to maybe throw a wrench into the system and they lose this game. I'll back Wisconsin, as you said, Dave, to pull a very mild upset in this one.
Al, this is one of those games where I'm real curious to see if there's anything in the database that might indicate one way or the other as to which side percentage-wise owns the edge.
Well, I agree with both of you in one respect and not in the other. I mean, I agree that Wisconsin's going to win. The problem is it's not going to be an upset. They're going to be the favorite in this ball game. So it'll only be an upset if you look at the polls. But, I really like Wisconsin here. This series has been ultra competitive over the years. Ohio State has a 20-19 edge, both straight up and against the spread. So it shouldn't come as a surprise, given the competitive nature of the series, that the revenging team is a super 23-8 against the spread. The Buckeyes did win the last meeting 61-50 last season in Columbus. So that's one reason, though a mild one, that I'm going to back the Badgers. But the real reason I want to be on Wisconsin for this ball game is that number one ranked teams have been dreadful in conference play over the last couple of years. They are 11-29 against the spread off a straight up win against conference opponents, including 3-16 against the spread when playing with at least 3 days of rest. As Scott mentioned, they had that win Sunday at Williams Arena in Minnesota. Ohio State's been off since that ball game. I'm going to fade the Buckeyes. I'll lay the small number with Wisconsin.
Well, Jim, it's 3-0 right now. Are you going to make this a consensus, or do you have something on the Buckeyes that you like?
Actually, Dave, you started out the comments that the pressure is on Ohio State. I really don't think so. This isn't NCAA football where you lose in the polls and you're screwed. This is basketball, and they do have a tournament situation to straighten it all out later. And, it's one of those spots where you're living on borrowed time. They've had a lot of close victories. They're a very good team. There's no question about it. I'm talking about Ohio State. And they deserve everything they've done, all the accolades, everything else. There's a team down in Texas that I think is actually a better team, but they're not playing them today. Wisconsin is very good at home, 7-2 against the spread. I have some very high numbers on them in this situation. Like Al pointed out, this is a tough spot for a number one team, an undefeated club. Wisconsin's going to win this game, in my opinion, but I'm not too sure about who's going to be favored going into it. Al did say that. He said that he felt the spread going to come out Wisconsin the favorite.
Yeah, Wisconsin's going to be favored by a minimum
I still think, though, you got to call it a mild upset if Wisconsin wins, because everybody across America thinks of this as being an upset if Wisconsin wins the game. But if you talk raw point spread factor, that it is. Really, I think they're going to be a very short favorite. I have to agree that the Badgers will be the team that's favored in that situation. But, last week, guys, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, maybe Al can back me up on this, they had a lot of big angles against Ohio State in that particular game. And again, it was just matchups. Minnesota is an overrated team with overrated big men. Wisconsin's a whole different animal. They're a Badger, by the way, not a Gopher.
Listen, Minnesota, you can't underestimate the loss of Al Nolan on that Minnesota team. He's their quarterback, and we saw him again last night against Illinois. They were not an impressive basketball team without Nolan. That team's in trouble. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament. It's going to be a great game. I also think Wisconsin comes a maybe 1 or 2 point favorite in the game, but it's a classic matchup. Jim, I would agree with you, by the way.
Well, if everybody out in the world thinks that Wisconsin's going to upset them, you're probably right. But I'll point this out: when Wisconsin played Minnesota, they were a 7.5 point home favorite, and last week Ohio State was a 3.5 point road favorite. So if you just take the math on those two numbers, Ohio State comes the favorite here. But I agree with you. Wisconsin wins this game.
And I agree with you, Jim. I think Texas is playing the best basketball in the country right now. That team is just playing
their road accomplishments in the Big 12 is amazing. You look at the road numbers for that team. The way they're annihilating people on the road it's an incredible. That's incredible on their resume. There's no question.
Yeah, watch out for them. Rick Barnes has got the perfect mix for what he likes to do. He's got a team that's extremely intense defensively, but they're also extremely athletic. A team that used to fit that mold was Memphis. Calipari had some great teams there. They've had some good recruiting classes the last couple of years, but on court, it hasn't really been working out all that well for Memphis. Not that they're a bad team, but I think they've fallen below projections this year. They've got a big game with Southern Miss on the Saturday slate. What a barn burner they played the first time around. Memphis goes into Hattiesburg and gets a 76-75 thriller of victory. Great game. What's going to happen in the rematch? Well, I'm going to shade Southern Miss in this basketball game. I think they've kind of found their way again. They had a little bit of a slump. They had a really awful game at Marshall, and it kind of somersaulted them into a few bad games, but they won 4 in a row. They've had a full week to prep for this game, and after losing by 1 at home to Memphis, it's a big game for them. Best player on the floor is this Flowers kid. He's absolutely terrific for Southern Mississippi. 20 points a game, about 7.5 boards. He blocks a couple of shots a game. Also steps out and shoots 43% from 3-point range. He's one of those guys, because Conference USA doesn't get a lot of attention these days. They're not on ESPN, and they're just not. They're kind of an under the radar conference at this point. If this kid Flowers is playing in the ACC or the Big 12 or the Big 10, everybody knows who he is. I'll tell you, the NBA guys know who he is. Angelo Johnson, pretty good point guard, takes good care of the basketball. He's only had 30 turnovers all year, which is impressive. Memphis, well, they're showing some signs of turning it into a good direction as well. Nice win at Gonzaga last week. Very important win for Memphis. Managed to get through Central Florida the other night. I know Central Florida's not playing well, but still, going on the road, never easy. In conference play, Memphis won that basketball game. But the problem for the Memphis is that Wesley Witherspoon is still apparently not going to be in the lineup for this game. I think he's a vital player. They're an awful 3-point shooting team when he's not on the floor. I'm going to side with Southern Miss in this game, Al. I think it's going to be a real close game. But Witherspoon is a big absence. I think Flowers is the dominant guy in this game. Southern Miss to go on the road and pick up a close victory. What do you think?
Well, I agree with you, Dave. Southern Miss was a 6-point favorite in that first meeting. Memphis did win, as you mentioned, 76-75. Would you believe that was the 15th straight win for the Tigers in this series, but it also must be noted that until this season, Memphis was favored by at least 9 points in each of the previous games. And also against the spread, even though they have won 15 straight, they're only 6-7 with 2 pushes against the spread. So Southern Miss has covered the spread more often than not. I'm going to lean slightly to Southern Miss here. Conference USA teams, Dave, they're 96-71 against the spread on the road in the regular season when playing with revenge from a loss earlier in the year. And if our road team is off a straight-up win, as Southern Miss is here, then our 96-71 stat moves to 53-35 against the spread, including a perfect 7-0 if our road team's win percentage is 750 or better. So I'm gonna go with Southern Miss here, plus the points against Memphis.
But Jim, your numbers have been they've been dynamite down the stretch. That's what usually happens with your fast facts and the assorted way you use them. What do they show for this game?
Well, it depends on what number we come out with on the points or what the odds makers make the game. The revenge factor is huge. In the first game, there was a big 18-point lead by Southern Miss, and they lost that, and they lost the game by 1. So it's a huge revenge factor. And Al pointed out a factor, when you look at these games by conference, there's conference tendencies, and it goes along with the officiating and the way they call the game. Some conferences really lean to the road team. Some conferences lean to the home team. In this particular conference, you do get a little bit of an edge with the road team. And this Southern Miss team is pretty darn good. And with Wesley Witherspoon probably out of the lineup for Memphis, I'm leaning to Southern Miss here for a pretty good revenge victory for them.
All right, Scott, I know this is a game that you're saving for the service. Sometimes we can't give out opinions on games that we're sending out to our customers, so we'll leave you out of this one. But certainly, if it goes along with what you've been doing lately, you'll have the right side of it, that's for sure. Let's get to the best bets and also recap what we've got for offers this weekend. Jim, you got that huge game. It's college game of the year. So how about a best bet from the games we talked about and details on how to get the big game?
Well, you know what is a game of the year? I mean, in reality, it's a game that all the matchups. You know, we have a whole season we're looking at. When we go back into October, November, we are kind of guessing as to how the players are going to mesh, the coaches and everything else, and the new recruits and the people that they've lost on the squad. At this time of the year, we know a lot about these teams and certain games, and there's 4 or 5 games tomorrow that really line up as pretty strong plays. And at this particular one, there's a check mark in all the boxes that I'm looking at. My 7 ratings on the game all favor the one side. The point spread's right in line with what I think I believe the point spread will be right in line with what I think it'll be, knowing what they've made each line so far this year. So I'm looking at this game. It matches up everywhere. I will have a very large bet on this game, believe me. And as I will on some other games as well. But this game matches up the tendencies of the team, the coaches, all the things that go together. This is my college game of the year for 2011. It's available right now on ProlineTV.com for $50. You can get it for $25 plus a guarantee by calling 1-866-841-1655. And don't forget to text winner to 313131 for free plays each and every day right to your cell phone. Now, if you want a game of the best bet for the show, I think I forgot to do that, didn't I?
Yes.
I'm going to look at Southern Miss as my best bet for the show to go into Memphis and get a revenge. I like this team. I like the way they're playing, and that's a big revenge spot for them, and they'll get the victory.
Now you had some strong information on all 3 games. One of those or some other game that you want to go with as a best bet, and again, details on this great offer for the weekend.
Sure, Dave. My best bet's easy here. It's Temple minus the points against Dayton. And everyone who's watching the show, your best bet is to get on board for my Saturday 2-game package. I've got in college basketball a conference game of the year, and then we wrap it up at night on Saturday with my NBA blowout of the month. And you can get both plays right now. Just call 866-896-1628. They're both absolutely free. College and pro winners on Saturday go 2-0 absolutely free. 866-896-1628.
All right, Scott, the 3-packs fired away with those. They keep on winning. 2 huge conference games of the year as well, and a best bet.
Yeah, I like both the games that I talked about, Temple and Wisconsin, but because of Lavoy Allen and his questionable status, I'll make Wisconsin my best bet for the show. I won't go against Temple, by the way, even if Allen's not playing. There's no way. I like, Temple in that game anyway, but Wisconsin's the best bet. By the way, the Southern Miss Memphis game, not part of the 3-pack. We have 3 big plays, though, all from college basketball. 2 of them are games of the year as we look to go to 13-2-1 with our last 16 basketball 3-packs. We had a 3-0 sweep on Thursday night. We're looking to do it again on Saturday. All 3 plays. Only $15, only at Smash Mouth Sports. If you purchase online, you're going to pay at least $50. So all you have to do is call 1-866-896-1627. 1-866-896-1627. Get my next 3-pack, including 2 games of the year, all for just $15. Dave?
Almost all my biggest plays, my top-level plays, I'll play college basketball games from each conference. But when I go with something really big, it's usually from one of 4 or 5 conferences that I really focus on. And I'll tell you that they're in this part of the country because I got great pipelines of information. And, when you've got that at your disposal, you feel better about the games and you do better. This is an absolute monster game for me on this schedule. It's a night game, by the way, so you get all day to call and take advantage of it. I'm selling it for $500 online. So it is a big player-only game, except this time I'm going to make it available to anybody who wants it. So if you're a small player, this is a chance for you to get a really big play at a very small price and with a guarantee. $25 for this big shot selection. Sells for $500 online. You get it for $25 with a guarantee that it's going to get you the money, or you're on board to get my service free through the college conference tournaments. That's a strong game, and that's an awesome guarantee. Make the phone call and pick up the money. 1-866-841-1665, 1-866-841-1665. And at the games we talked about today, I'm going to go with the Golden Eagles of Southern Miss. I like Larry Eustachy here as well. I think he's a better coach, to tell you the truth. Maybe worth a couple of baskets. Southern Miss to edge past Memphis. Wraps up this week's edition of Proline. We do this every week for the weekend show, and then during the week we're on 4 days a week with an abbreviated version. We take a look at a couple of games. So good stuff right here at ProLineTV.com. For Big Al, for Jim, for Scott, I'm Dave. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Monday.